This episode was brought to you by Slate Black Industries. For MLOK grips and accessories, visit slateBlackIndustries.com.
Yes, Henry, your love affair of the bullpup continues.
This is, my friend, the Space Age AUG. From Australia. No, this isn't Australian, but the Australians did do a lot of development on their Space AUG 2.
Alright, let's make it happen. Let's start at 150.
Alright. This is, however, Australian ammo I'm shooting, so, ready?
Impact. Alright, let's move to 200.
The chronograph only got the first shot. I was so fast with my trigger pull.
Impact. Wow, stacked rounds. Just left of center.
Yeah.
Alright, 250.
250.
Impact. Nice.
Still tight, huh?
Yeah, pretty good group so far. Alrighty, I'm on at 3.
Okay, 3. Now, this optic is cam for 55, and we are shooting 69 grain match. So, I can use a 300 elevation, put it on the right edge, and we'll see where it goes.
Okay, I'm on for it. 300. Impact. Wow, this thing is very accurate, huh?
Yeah, not bad on the elevation change either.
Yeah.
But
good.
Certainly shooting 69 grain match, I mean, that's not a standard load that we use a lot. But 69 grain match of yesteryear used to be the 77 of the people. Or
all right, I'm on at 350. Far left target.
So 350.
Square hit. Nice. Wow.
Nice. Josh, I must say I'm satisfied so far, but the course is still only halfway done.
It's true, Henry. Don't get ahead of yourself here.
All right,
I'm on at 4. Impact. Just on the lower third of the plate. Good windage. Impact.
Is that correct?
It was a little bit of an overcorrection.
Okay.
So it was at the very top line, neckline area. All right, 450. Impact. Lower line of the plate. I would definitely push up a bit here.
Okay.
Don't go crazy, don't overcorrect it, but yeah, that was the low line of the plate. Good windage.
Okay.
Nice. Just right of center. Solid
Nice, okay.
All right, I'm on at 500.
500?
Yep. Splash, low left. Press right, half target, come up, quarter target. Impact, lower quadrant, come up, quarter target. Impact, right of center. Nice.
Oh, one shot away from perfect, Josh, man.
Dude, your precious bullpups.
Stop. The AK-105 evidently is supreme, huh? With ball ammunition.
That was a really good run. I mean, obviously, that's just a hold problem.
Yeah.
Rifle shooting, stinking real accurate, dude.
I mean,
Real
those
accurate.
rounds were stacked going up. You know, just listening to corrections, it was easy to correct from a splash at 500. Did we expect anything less from the Steyr AUG, though?
I mean, I don't know. Did you, Henry?
I did not. I didn't know if you did, though.
Well, maybe we ought. I mean, that was good enough. We got to try at least a little further.
Yeah. So, just for the audience a little bit, this is the AUG A3M2. So what's cool about it is the front end is completely redesigned. And I decided to test one of the SAI optics onto this. It's a Canadian optic. And then also run a Zenitco Purst 4 on it. Purst 4, right? Yeah, the laser only. So the reason I ran the Purst 4, though, Josh, is because on the promo video for the M2s, I saw that the Austrians had a Purst on front of it.
Oh, nice.
And I thought it was funny because Austria has quite the reputation of being a, the neutral country where, let's say, spies and clandestine operators kind of gather. And so I wanted to put all sorts of shit onto this one just to see what it looked like.
Mission accomplished, huh?
Yeah. Okay, so I see a gong out there.
Yeah, so the gong, let's go there. That is just around 625-ish today.
Okay.
So I'm on. Mind your wind here. It looks like we still got, I can see a little bit of right to left mirage going on down there. So
Okay.
that splashed short. I think it was still just right underneath it.
Okay.
Wind's looking good though. That was it.
All right.
Dead center hit. Very good, very good.
I mean, do you think 69 grain will reach any farther?
I mean, the short answer is yes. Whether or not I can effectively call it further is debatable. We can try the turkey if you'd like.
So I'll put a 700 meter mark on this one, yeah?
I would probably go high with it, but
Okay.
yeah, let's see.
Ready?
Yep. Ah, yeah.
Ha! Was it a hit?
I'm pretty sure it was a hit.
All right.
Nice. Let's go. Sweet, dude.
So,
A very effective and enjoyable run.
yeah, so this, still debatable on whether I like the heresy of using NATO magazines with this thing. The Space AUG, the AUG M2. Verdict is still out there whether I like the Stenag mag lower. I really wish, because with the Stenag mag, they deleted the bolt hold open. Fast forward to the future, you will see that I now have T-mags in here, and ta-da! There is a bolt release now. The trigger is fine for me. I mean, I think that's a little overblown. I'm using red springs. But the front end is what they completely redesigned. And this is one that I quite like because you can QD the handguard right here, quickly switch the barrel out and run something like the AUG LMG barrel. But what you see I'm running right here almost as a semi-permanent item on this is the Huxworth 556K. And then, of course, the Zenitco Purst 4, as I was talking about, a little bit of heresy, a little bit of a clandestine scandal of a throwback on how Russian operatives like to hang out in Vienna and Austria, and of course the Canadian SAI Optic 1:6 LPVO. All in all, I mean, it's a space hog. The AUG we know is accurate to begin with, and today I think we saw even more of it. And it was just a little bit of a shame I couldn't do a a clean course to compete with the URGI and the E105. However, perhaps with a barrel change, this could come back. But for now, do you have anything to add, Josh?
No, we'll see you guys at the debrief.
Servus. I was just here enjoying my homemade schnapps that our friends brought to us from Austria. Now, I hope you're enjoying the show so far. Shows like this, they're brought to you by Slate Black Industries. But more importantly, we have the support of the patrons of Patreon. That's right. This magnificent group of men and women, they support us. Financially, intellectually, but most importantly, emotionally. So today, I'd like to invite you. Come, join us, become one of us. Together, we could discover the endless possibilities for polymers. But if you can't, it's quite alright. We'd be just as happy to see a comment from you left right below. But for now though, let's get on with it.
Henry, an AUG, a bullpup, with only one miss on the course.
Happens
I
all
know
the time.
why you missed. I know why you missed. It's because the triggers are so bad that if you had just had a better trigger, you would have been able to shoot the course clean, you know? So, yeah, I mean, sorry, bullpups.
That must be it, Mr. AR-15. Look, I've already compromised with this a little bit, and it uses Stenag magazines, all right? So are you happy with this yet? Obviously not.
I'm proud of your departure from AUG as AUG. And, like, this is the modernized looking one, you know? The maximizing some of the performance capabilities, and it clearly showed.
Frankly, though, I mean, the AUG, the AUG... Now, I've swapped the barrel out right here because we're trying to do other things with this. Primarily, I want to see if this has any potential towards special purposes. But the AUG A3M2, bit of a word salad there. But the M2 as opposed to the M1s, both of the previous ones, the SF is in the A3SF family, which is closer to the M1 that you guys typically see out on the civilian market. And the M2 there's a lot of special operations ideas that were infused to this version of the AUG. And so one of the notable things that I was really excited about is the advent of the flat top. And then you can see the gooseneck is right here. And we've changed this up a little bit. And then a removable handguard, so you can still QD your devices, or your barrel and devices, or anything along those lines. But what we saw here was just the accuracy side. I use the SAI 1-6. We can talk about the Call of Duty hit marker that's on that everybody talks about. And then the other thing was we use 69 grain ammunition, which I haven't shot 69 grain for a hot minute. But we had some on T&E, and since this was already an unorthodox rifle, and the 16-inch barrel had a 1-to-9 twist to it. So I opted to run the ammunition that would give it the most peak performance. So, one miss. Let me cope for a little bit that I didn't get to hang with the URGI here, okay?
Now, Henry, you talked about the handguard here, but this is one of the areas that I want to focus on straight away. How does this work with the gas valve, or like what normally sits on the AUG front right quadrant, right around where the vertical grip usually is?
I could show you. So the AUG, one of the major complaints with the AUG that you couldn't use any modern shooting techniques is that the gas valve itself was sitting right where you would be gripping, and you would burn yourself if you were holding on to the grip. Now, that's the cool thing about this. The A2 or the M2 grip is that it completely encases the gas valve in the front. But at the same time, because it's QD, you still have access to do any gas adjustments you need, or you could also swap barrels out, which retains the core function of the AUG's quick detach barrel system. So, and that's why I'm specifically using this to test out, different concept of a longer barrel or anything along those lines, because I wanted to see if it holds any water, like a longer barrel AUG. This is shorter than an M4. What you saw shoot, fully laser, light, suppressor, LPVO with a piggyback red dot. Granted, it is heavy, but when you shoulder it and you pie corners, it is shorter, if not the same length as a Mark 18 style rifle, unsuppressed. And it's very well balanced. But the trigger pull is most certainly not nearly as atrocious as people would say. And do you want me to go into the trigger pull? Because I know some people will talk about the trigger pull and why the AUG's trigger pull is so bad. I don't know if I've talked about it in previous episodes, but the AUG, the civilian models, they had put these black springs into the trigger pack in the back, whereas these new ones, whereas the military ones, you're supposed to run the red springs, and the red springs are the military specification trigger springs. On top of that, the AUGs actually have adjustable triggers. So you could, the little trigger shoe right here, you could push it forward and backward, and you could adjust it to where it takes up all of the slack. And most of the stuff from factory is unadjusted and uses black springs. So you're using a higher trigger weight, and you have more slop because it's unadjusted.
So what you're telling me is that these got the NYPD Glock treatment before being sent out, the original ones, like the standards?
So unfortunately, because they don't adjust the triggers and they use the heavier trigger springs, when guys go to like a gun store and they pick up an AUG and they try the trigger pull, they're trying the worst possible. But then at the same time, not a lot of people run AUGs, so not a lot of people know about these things. They don't know about, swapping the springs or adjusting the trigger. And so it just gets passed along that, hey, AUG triggers are just absolutely horrible. Even people who bought it, I know, haven't been adjusting the trigger shoe itself. And so for my example, I bought it, I adjusted the trigger pull to take up a lot of that slack, swap the springs out, and that feels more like what the Austrian military would be issuing. So, and I learned that not only from guys at Steyr, but also our friend Rowan in Australia. To tribute to him with the Aussie top, and also some of the Jaegers that I worked with in Austria. They all work on these things. People who use these things all know about this, but it's just not very well past common knowledge.
So this platform, when I look at it now, within the market for AUGs here in the States, you have some aftermarket companies who are producing aftermarket like upgrades, changes, etc. for the AUGs. Things like the handguards, for example. This to me is like, it took what all of those changes were attempting to create it into, and basically just made them all standard. Is that a fair assessment?
Yeah, it only took 50 years. No, okay, all right, that's me being facetious. Like I know Austria, a lot of times they take very conservative steps in developing stuff. I mean, same thing for Glock. But at this point, yes, it took a lot of the ideas that aftermarket companies had and turned it into something that's actually quite nice and solves a lot of the problems that people would have with the AUG. The fixed optic, again, that was a specific thing that the Austrians wanted, a fixed optic that was made in Austria with Austrian components from an Austrian company. And that type of military logistics doesn't translate to civilian sales very well. And the way it translates is when soft units or special police units pick these things up and say, no, we want this changed. Here's a government contract. Please make these changes. And they start developing things to cater towards that. And a lot of that, it's really interesting that the STG-77 or the AUG's been around for so long, right? But I would argue that the AUG probably has one of the deeper aftermarket supports when you compare it to any other bullpup out there. Like the FAMAS has 0, obviously. The SA80 has 0. What other bullpup? The Tavor has a decent aftermarket support, but a large part of that was also developed in the States and Israel, but a large part of it was developed in the States with the U.S. industry. So it's interesting how a lot of these bullpups, whenever they hit the civilian market, they end up with a lot of civilian development, civilian ideas that give these things a further service life. And this is one of the prime examples of how that transpired into civilian market ideas, pushing this to having an OEM function for all of these things, solving those problems that everybody has.
So are these M2s now available in the U.S. civilian market?
Yeah. Some of them don't have the handguard included. Some of them do. Some of them have like a different top rail. It's basically it's the last of the A3 line, frankly. It's the last of the AUG. Like this still retains the AUG's general look, specifically with the stock. It looks like an AUG, right? It's the last of the AUG in this configuration to where this is how an AUG looks. The next configuration, I've gotten to peek behind the curtains a little bit, is really cool, but certainly pulls away from some of those traditional AUG elements.
So in terms of the actual like form and function then of this particular rifle, sort of basically like the max upgraded AUG, I can say from handling it, the change to the rail and the handguard, I think is a large improvement. That to me, like especially covering the exposed gas valve, like that, I grabbed that more than once when we've been shooting these things, to the point where I've had to wear the Michael Jackson glove when I shoot the AUGs.
Yeah,
that change was very, very positive. And then obviously being able to, I know that they've had other variants where you could put your own optic on, right? That wasn't the other flat top variants, but combining it all in one, certainly very positive. To your point, you have this thing like kitted out, or at least when we did the run, it was like this was kitted out as sort of like
still is right now. I mean, it's just kitted differently. Light, laser, optic, red dot, but still the weight.
Yes, from a shooting perspective, the weight, while very heavy when kitted like this with all of these different accoutrements, especially a suppressor, when you suppress a normal 16-inch AR, the addition of the weight out that far on the muzzle changes the balance and the handling characteristics relatively dramatically. As in transitioning between targets, you're applying completely different pressures to move the gun where it needs to go. The recoil impulse feels different, not just because of the gas coming back, but because literally of the weight sitting out that far on the end of the gun. And your support arm, in my case at least, fatigues dramatically faster than unsuppressed. With this particular configuration, with everything tucked back in based on its nature as a bullpup, I feel like this is quite handy still, even kitted like this. And I think that's that doesn't necessarily mean that gotta kit it like this, but it does emphasize the point that you can have all these different enablers on a particular setup. And it goes back to the conversations that you and I have gone through numerous times about balance, about where the weight sits on the gun and how that translates to the gun's performance and feel and movement. As we look at the optic, I know you referenced it a minute ago, the SAI optic.
Yeah.
I know this is one you're testing. Mm-hmm. What is your sense of this, Ben? I know you sort of joked about the Call of Duty hit marker at the onset. We weren't really shooting this in a capacity where that would matter, right? Like you were actually using mostly the BDC tree below that. But what's your sense of this optic?
I think, honestly, so the SAI optic, so I think it's interesting, right? If you look at the LCAN, the reticle definitely shares some similarities between the two. I understand why they put the Call of Duty hit marker. It's for 1x. I have found through using things like the PLXC that as long as you have a leading line crosshair, it's fine. Like, it works without really cluttering the center. Now, does this actually clutter the center when it comes to distance shooting? Not really. I mean, not like this. This isn't a precision rifle to where I need a little bit more PID in the center or situational awareness to it. An LPVO with decent glass like this is going to give you much better clarity and resolution than, let's say, a red dot magnifier. Now, I will say, and I've told them this too, I think they're hurting themselves by not having the 2 extra magnifications. The 2 next step of so 1 to 8 like the PLXC or 1 to 10 like the Vortex. I think they're hurting themselves in the marketing side for the optic, but for the actual usable side, I find myself even with your Vortex, the 1 to 10, or with my PLXC that I have, I don't really ever choke it down to the 8x. I typically use it at the 4 or 6x in the middle. So as far as magnification goes, I don't care. Like, it doesn't bother me. The iBox is still great at 6x. I will say, paired with the AUG, aesthetically, it looks nice. I will also say that the AUG A3M2 is kind of begging to be one of those optic hosts to basically like test different optics on it, which is why I have it kitted the way it is, because I want to use it to test optics. The interesting thing is, and why I wore Ozcam for this, is because before the Austrians came out with the M2, the Australians, not the same country, Austrians, we're talking about Australians now, the funny people down south with kangaroos and wallabies. They've developed their version of the AUG, the F88, into something that is far surpassed that era of the AUG in using aftermarket optics. Even during the global war on terror, they were using a lot of LCANs. They're using a lot of ACOGs. So the Australians had been pushing their version, the AuSteyr AUG, well past what the Austrians were doing, even before Austrians were. However, in order to do that, they actually deleted the function of the quick barrel change. So they had to delete a function in order to go towards the swapped out handguard, and they already went towards a flat top. Now, their flat tops, high or low, it depends on which version you get. But the Australians, I had to mention them here because they did do a lot to push the AUG. It's just that they never offered it into the US, which, AuSteyr, if you're listening out there, please, pretty please. Love to have some of that stuff. But yeah, the one thing, because they deleted the quick change barrel, obviously the front end is afforded to be a lot tighter. The quick change front end is not entirely sinless. Because it's quick change, you can't mount any lasers on it, obviously. And then on top of that, because it's a QD system that's mounted onto the gooseneck up here, I found that when you mount the laser up front, like I did in the video, that it shifts a little bit when you're applying some pressure to it. So I still think that a more ideal layout for this is to put the laser in the shooting position, the shooter position. I don't know what you would call this, Josh. Like in ARs, like what's his name? Obi-Wan Nairobi's rifle was also laser up, farther back to favor a shooter rather than a night vision use. More general purpose layout, I think, is more suitable for this particular system. Which the funny thing with the AUGs, the reason why I started dropping it back to ACOGs and LCANs is what the Australians have found out. AUGs pair with LCANs and ACOGs like PB&J. It is just a really good system because it puts so much of that weight towards the back. Specifically during the Global War on Terror, you saw a lot of Australian troops out with ACOGs and later on with LCAN, Spectre DRs. These prism-type optics, specifically with a low eye relief or the short eye relief ones, you can push them pretty far back. Yeah, I'm holding this with one hand. The AUG is fairly balanced front to back. When you're able to start shifting some of the weight towards the back, your vehicle operations, your patrol operations, any of those long-term when you're holding the rifle is going to be significantly easier than using an LPVO and shifting more of the laser and the PEX onto the front. So what you saw in the video to where I had the laser unit farther forward, you could do that. And frankly, if you're just using that to designate targets at night, or you're using that to communicate with people, that's fine. Or if you're using that to shoot within 100 meters, that's fine. But this rail, I've found that it does shift the laser whenever it goes to the front slightly. So between the weight balance and how the laser could have a little bit of shift on the gooseneck up here, because this is a gooseneck and everything is attached to the gooseneck, I've found that I prefer the laser to be farther back towards where it mounts up to the receiver for both weight purposes and also a tighter laser zero. So that's just my preference on it. Obviously, you could still run it up front. It's just I prefer this.
All right, so there you have it. Now, given that this isn't like actually a clone-ish thing anymore, and it's more of a like actual option for being a combative rifle, what's the commercial price point on this, Henry? It's expensive, right? That's part of the reason why I think bullpups in general are sort of like
So you're looking
to some degree.
You're looking at the upper ones, upper one jelly beans. I mean, you could argue that there are certain units that use this and you can clone them, but it's starting to depart from the, infantry clone, the A3SS.
Classic, classic one, right?
Yeah. So, but at the same time, this is really looking back towards a more practical layout for the bullpup. And that's going to be the difficult thing for Steyr because, when you don't have your triggers kitted out, like Americans are obsessed with trigger pull. When you don't get that satisfaction at the gun shop, it's going to be difficult to turn the sale. And then on top of that, the AUG specifically, it's a fairly accurate bullpup. I mean, obviously, you can see. It's a precise, easy to maneuver bullpup. The recoil is very manageable. It feels directly in your shoulder, but all of these things you need to fire it to feel it. And when you have the AR-15 around, that's just a dime a dozen. It does make it more difficult. That being said, though, Josh, not everyone buys things like I want this thing for this price. Like the value proposition goes beyond just the how, what does it give? And this does give some value that the AR-15 cannot give, like the balance. The other thing is the aesthetic. You cannot get the aesthetic. You cannot get the aesthetic from the AR side. But that's arguable. I am what they call autistic. So,
guys, thanks for tuning in to this episode. We hope you enjoyed watching the AUG clear out to 700 with Henry behind the rifle as usual, slaying, doing all of his good bullpup stuff. If you enjoyed the episode, be sure to let Henry know whether or not you agree or disagree with his love of bullpups, whether it's founded or unfounded, in the comments below. Hop over into Patreon, berate him in the private Discord directly. And until next time, we'll see you guys on the range.
This thing is coming back, by the way.
This is Steel 96, 4 Vic, 8 packs, Redcon 1, green to green. How copy, over?
Steel 96, this is 716, roger, over. 16, Steel 91, 1 pack, green, over. This is 716, roger, over.
Optic, Steel 92, 1 Victor, 2 packs, Redcon 1, over.